Then you sit down and ask, for the past so many years, how many tons of uranium have been taken out of Niger? At 80 cents. So per every kg that left this country, how many dollars has Niger lost? It goes into billions. Is France by any chance willing to admit that it has been stealing? No. Are they willing to let go so that Niger can start afresh? No. Are they willing to bring the infrastructure to Niger so that Niger can benefit from uranium as a final product in terms of electricity? No. What do you want Africa to do, France? We want Africa to prosper. How do you want them to prosper? By making sure that we keep their resources and their banks in France here, and we only give them money which is their own tax money as loans.
Hello brothers and sisters, welcome back, welcome all to our channel. This is Facts About Africa, the African channel where we share thoughts and changing the narrative of mother continent. So today's video I want to share with you from our father, Joshua Maponga from Zimbabwe, who is still reminding us to use our resources to the maximum, because he asked that question that who is mostly benefiting of our resources. In straight point or straight answer, you can't answer this question, because we say Africa is a rich continent, but looking as we are poor compared to the Western countries. So before we dive in this speech, please, I want to beg you fellow Africans to salute the president of Burkina Faso for building a plant that he can refine the mineral from Burkina Faso in Burkina Faso. This means no more exportation of minerals from Burkina Faso.
Our interests are your raw materials that we are going to get for no money, for a song, at cheap price, so that we can fuel our factories and industries this side. Those are our interests. Because if we don't get these raw materials, our people will lose their jobs. And when our people lose their jobs, they will turn against us. But no one bothers to ask these people who are taking the raw materials, do they have the same jobs? So are you saying that your people are more important than our people? Unfortunately, France has interest. China has interests. Britain has interests. America has interests. Except Africans have no interests in their own economies. They have no interest in their copper. That's why they send it away as it is. They have no interest in their uranium. That's why they send it as it is. They have no interest in their iron ore. Send it as it is. They have no interest in their uranium. So when you as local people don't have an interest in your own interests, in your own revenues and materials, until other people from elsewhere will even send soldiers in your country, because they can't trust you to protect their interests. And 15,000 soldiers right now sitting in Niger and saying we are not going because France's interests are on the ground here. Our embassy is not closing because we must make sure that the uranium keeps on going. Even if poor people in Africa will benefit from that, it must benefit us first before it can benefit you. And it may never benefit you. That's why the oil pipes of Nigeria are passing through villages where poverty is worst. British Petroleum. And Nigeria has to import back its own fuel as a processed product at a price 3 to 4, 5 times more than they send it out of the country. So tell me, Nigeria, after 60 years of mining oil, why up to date you don't have a processing and a refinery to purify your oil and sell petrol to the world? No, those mines don't belong to us. The government signed a document with the British government, and it's in the Constitution. It's in the law that Britain will mine this place for the next 99 years. I don't know how long is the lease. So you have the same law that you vote leaders into, and when they get into this law, the Western world always makes sure the person going onto that chair understands the law, which protects us. So the revolutionaries that are coming in now seem to have poor knowledge of law. They seem to have a good understanding of the community. it might end up causing Africa to move into a space of anarchy, lawlessness, but even that law itself is foreign to us. And until African leaders understand that now is time not to be talking politics, it's time to be talking economics. If I could give an advice to every African leader, before you leave parliament, build industries, build transport infrastructures, own buses as government, own manufacturing companies as government, own railway lines as government. Create these parastatals, these non-government organizations, but that are directly funded by the government. Because the government is the only one who has money. You cannot wait for the bank. The bank wants sureties, and the poor people on the ground have poor land. They cannot use that as surety. So the only surety we have is the government itself. So the Chinese business, all the things that you see coming out of China are sponsored by the government of China. How many trillions are they making now? They're a superpower of manufacturing. It takes a government to have a direct intention. And again, if you look into the Constitution, the government must not be seen to be doing any business. Your job is that of regulations. You must not be tampering with business. And who is tampering with the business? The same multinational companies. They don't even want you as government to come closer to where the money is made. You sit there and write the rules. And when you don't like the rules, we bribe your parliamentarians to come and vote the wrong thing in parliament, and it will be passed while you are sitting there. You are always in power, but not in control.
It's our time now, this generation of African, to do our responsibility, because every generation in Africa has its role. The generation of our founding fathers, the generation of Patrice Lumumba, Julius Kambarage Nyerere, Nelson Mandela, Haile Selassie, Thomas Sankara, Samora Machel, and so on. They did their best to take this continent in the hands of Africans. So the role of we young Africans of this generation is to make unity of this continent, to make our resources be profitable to we first Africans.
iPhone that you bought, young man, but you've just downloaded a Samsung software. And all the good files of Android, your phone is reading them as error. Error. It can't even function. The phone is brand new. You just put an Android system on an Apple hardware. They don't talk to each other. The African software, the African spirituality, or the African hardware, either way, that is not talking to the colonial software that has been put on the African hardware, or the African hardware which is being put on the African software. Doesn't matter to me. But there's no conversation between the one who is producing the raw material and the one who is selling the final product. There's no communication. This one wants to buy it for $80 a kg uranium, and he is selling it at $200. And this one is saying, now come back here, bring my $140, $120 that you didn't bring back. The one says, I don't want. And this one says, no, I'm no longer going to be selling to you, I'll be selling directly. This one says, no, you can't. Even when you sell it directly, they must still keep it the same price for me only. But for everybody else, sell it at 200. This is the French Niger conflict that you have. Then you sit down and ask, for the past so many years, how many tons of uranium have been taken out of Niger? At 80 cents. So per every kg that left this country, how many dollars has Niger lost? It goes into billions. Is France by any chance willing to admit that it has been stealing? No. Are they willing to let go so that Niger can start afresh? No. Are they willing to bring the infrastructure to Niger so that Niger can benefit from uranium as a final product in terms of electricity? No. What do you want Africa to do, France? We want Africa to prosper. How do you want them to prosper? By making sure that we keep their resources in their banks in France here, and we only give them money which is their own tax money as loans and at a good interest for us. So what has the interest of Niger? Nigers have no interests. What are the interests? The only interests that matter are the interests of America and the interests of France. Now you're talking about African development with that picture, that Barclays Bank, Standard Bank, FNB Bank, Total, BP, Shell, all the high volumes of transactions that are happening in the country, they're happening on a side economy that is colonial, and the local government does not have access to that. They can only wait for tax, and taxes are on less than 20 to 30% of the total. And once the money in the bank is in the bank, Barclays South Africa, Barclays Harare, Barclays Uganda, Barclays Britain, monies are being transacted legally on paper. Barclays South Africa is allowed to pay Barclays Britain. It's allowed. There's policies in government which tell you how that must be done. When were these policies written? 1920, 1930. Who wrote them? The settlers. Why did they write them? Because they were subjects of the British monarch. So how did you write them? We wrote them in such a way that when you make money in your local country, you're able to move money out of that country where you're working and pay your taxes and pay your allegiance to the one who has brought you here. So what is the banking system? The banking system is a custodian of collecting cash from local people and moving it out of that country legally and support the principals who own these banks. Now we begin to talk as who owns these banks. So is it possible that if we should collect $1 billion in Uganda from various businesses and that money goes to the bank, how much of that money then makes its way to the government? So you are beginning to understand politics, young man, that politics is economics. Those that hold the money will actually determine the politics. Our governments are fighting over bones. The real flesh and meat is not eaten here. Go to Dubai, go to Mauritius, go to Virgin Islands, go to Swedish banks, go to British banks, and you see how many trillions are constantly being siphoned out of the African economy legally.
So this is what fellow Africans I want to share with you. Please let us know, as I said before, what you got from this video in the comment section. Thank you. Welcome back to our channel.